All right, guys, let's talk about the wrong way to open up your own architecture firm for all you guys out there that are working at a firm right now, that are thinking about quitting or eventually opening up your own firm. And then after that, we'll transition into talking about the right way so you guys can hopefully follow that way instead of making a bunch of mistakes that you run into. So, right off the bat, you're working at a firm, you decide to quit your job and just start working on your own. That is the first wrong thing that you want to do because A, you don't have a company, not legally anyway. You don't have an LLC, you don't have an S Corp, you don't have any legal entity that describes you as a company, and you don't have any clients. All right. So you decide to just quit your job, start working from home the next day. You're very excited. You turn on your computer, and what do? So then you probably figure, I need some clients. Luckily, you use ChatGPT and you find a client immediately. That's how good AI is in this fake world that I've made up. Now you have your client. Your client wants to build a whole house. You've never done that before. Your experience has only taken you as far as doing pieces of projects, but you've never completed one on your own. You're not experienced enough to do this kind of job, but you take it anyway. So that is wrong thing to do. Number two, you start your own firm, you want to take on jobs that you're experienced with. If there are certain gaps in knowledge, that's okay. You don't have to be expected to know every single thing that is needed to be known about a specific project typology. But you do have to have enough information to be able to identify and fill in those gaps. So, wrong thing number two is that you're taking on jobs that you don't have any experience with. Now, how do you solve this? Well, start by taking jobs that are small enough that line up with your current experience. But wait a minute, I'm new, I'm excited, I just got a job. Who cares if I have the experience or not? I'll learn on the way. Well, that is partially true. You know, you could be ambitious enough to figure things out on the way. But again, in a perfect world, do you really want to start your first client ever off in such a risky situation that you might get burnt out of the project, not be able to complete it, or just get fired altogether? Probably not, guys. That doesn't sound like a smart move. So you, in this wrong scenario world that I've created, you just quit your job. You got lucky enough to find a client on your very first day, but it's not the right client, but you decide to go through anyway. All right, you start filling in the gaps, and then you realize, wait a minute, part of me not understanding what entails a complete version of this job that I've taken for this client, I don't have the right documentation experience. I don't know what to submit to this jurisdiction. I don't know what my set should look like, my cartoon set, my title block. I don't have any of that. I don't even have typical details for this type of construction. What do I do? Should I look in my thumb drive of previously saved work that I have throughout all the years of my experience? That's right, I didn't take that. I have nothing like that. So you're shit out of luck, as they say, guys. And that is a pretty good scenario that describes what is the wrong way to open up your own firm. Okay. Let's talk about the right way to do it, guys. Now, I am guilty of committing some of the wrong things myself. And I suspect that a lot of you guys watching this video that have started your own firms in the past have also been victim of, right? Doing things the wrong way. So how do you start it off the right way? Well, let's assume that you're working at a firm. If you're not working at a firm currently, if you're in school, then I wouldn't open up my own firm if I were you, okay? You can certainly open up some sort of studio that offers some sort of basic, um, I guess, tasks that you could do, like rendering or maybe some basic design. But if you want to open up an actual architecture firm, well, there's a couple things that I recommend that you have under your belt before you do that. The first thing being experience, right? As you're working at a firm, you start to realize what kind of architecture you like. Do you like residential? Do you like commercial? What type of residential? What type of commercial? Hopefully, as you're working in a firm, you start to navigate toward the type of architecture that you like, and you start to gain experience in these types of projects. And if you don't have experience in these type of projects, then I suggest that you ask those above you to have you work on these kind of projects. And if that firm doesn't want to let you do that, then I suggest you find another firm that offers these kind of projects so that you could gain experience. And your goal is to get as close to a master of this type of craft as possible. Now, you don't want to fall victim of being a perfectionist or aiming to be a perfectionist. You don't want to be an actual master of any of the project typologies that you choose to follow, but you do want to have anywhere from like a 50% and up idea of what you're doing. You want to know what a project scope in that typology requires. If your typology is common for needing demolition, you need to be comfortable doing demolition. If that project typology often requires life safety planning, you need to know life safety planning. It's easier to figure out the last 50% than to go from 0 to 100 or even from 0 to 50. Okay, guys? So you need to have the experience. Now, how many years of experience? Well, there's no actual number. Some of us are smarter than others. Some of us are luckier than others. Some of us learn faster than others. It just really depends. I can't put a year on it. But one small tip is if you've been working and for the last 2 years, you've grown, let's say like 5% in knowledge, then you're probably doing something wrong, because I highly doubt that you've exceeded the ability to learn new things. Okay? So gain the knowledge, guys. You need to be comfortable with the project typologies. Okay? You need to have enough information to be able to fill the gaps. So now that you have that, if you're not ready, if you feel like you're maybe 1 or 2 years away from that, continue working on that goal while doing some other things simultaneously, like setting up your company. It's really important to have a company, in my opinion, if your goal is to own a firm. It's really important to set up, to register that company, so to speak, as soon as possible, right? And you should talk to an accountant about this. Things like setting up your LLC or S Corp, talk to your accountant about which one's right for you. But setting that up, picking a name, you can always change it in the future. That's not the end of the world. But if you want to change the name 5 years into your career, right, or into the life of your business, and you have a bunch of clients, you might have a little bit of explaining to do to your clients, and it could get awkward. So it's better just to open the company, pick whatever name, and see what it feels like before you even have your first client. Work on your marketing, work on your social media page, right? You don't feel comfortable with social media, you don't have to, but at least have a website, or vice versa. If you don't feel like having a website, but you want to set up an Instagram page or LinkedIn, doesn't matter, as long as you do something where you start to tap into this social fabric. So now that you have the experience, and little by little you've been setting up your company, you're almost ready to go. You just need your first client. Now, how do you get your first client? Well, there's actually a few ways to get it. Breaking that down, either the client comes to you or you go to the client. Now, we can branch each of those into so many other options, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to focus on a few methods here. So how do you go to the client? How do you find the client? One way is through advertising. So part of your setting up your company could be taking an online course on advertising, SEO, right? How do you show up in front of the client when the client needs a specific task done, right? Where does the client go? Does the client go to Instagram to search up architects? Does the client go to Google? Do they go to Facebook? Where does the client go? And then how do you compete with everybody else that is in the pool of people that the client is seeing at this location where this client goes? For example, Google. Is there a way to do it for free? Is there a way to pay for it to be at the top? These are the kind of questions that you want to think about. You want to simulate the experience of being a client who needs work done. And that's why it helps to know what your craft is, guys. If you're doing remodels, what does a guy that needs to remodel his home do? Does he open up the yellow pages? Does he ask his neighbor? What is this guy doing? Is he Googling stuff? Is he on Pinterest one day and he sees a house and he's like, you know what, I'm going to remodel my house? Guys, these are questions that you need to be comfortable answering. And if you are working at a firm with the mindset of digging for these answers from your firm, then you are 20 steps ahead, because guess what, guys? Your firm already did the hard part. They already set all of this up. So how can you grab some of these answers from there, from your firm? So that's the idea of you going to your client. Another way is freelancing, right? Freelancing websites. How do you find clients through freelancing websites? Well, that one's pretty easy, because clients go to the freelancing website, you make a profile, then you apply. You send your proposals for certain jobs. Not that complicated. How does a client come to you? Well, that goes back to the SEO, but it also goes back to having people refer you. Now, if nobody knows what you do, how's anybody going to refer you, guys? How's your neighbor going to refer his friend over to you if your neighbor doesn't know what the heck you do, right? Oh, because you have a cool Instagram page. Oh, I see. Okay. Guys, these are the kind of things that you want to think about, And the short answer, right, the dumb answer is networking. You get a client coming to you by networking, letting everybody around you know what you do, and hopefully you specialize in something. If you just say, I do architecture, nobody knows what that means, guys. Nobody knows what architecture is. Be specific in what you do, as specific as possible, and be proud of that, and let everybody know, so that other people can be like, hey, I have a friend that does this specific thing. Let me put you in contact with them. And if you have your social media, these people are not going to contact you. They're going to first see your social media or your website, and they're going to be really pleased to see that you've already set this all up and it looks super professional, and you have great examples of what kind of questions they're looking for. Like, how long is the turnaround? Is this guy legit? Like, has he done this before? How much is he charging? Is he going to take a month to send me a proposal, etc.? And then the final right thing that you want to do is, so before I get to the final thing, the networking, part of your network, guys, it has to include consultants, renderers, modelers, structural engineers, MEP guys, civil engineers. It doesn't matter if you're not going to use this, but they're important to have to ask questions. You could even hire them. If you have questions on a project, you can hire these guys to answer these questions for you. Even if they're part of a client that you find, like that's part of their responsibilities, still good to have a network of people for when you have questions, so that you don't look like a complete noob and ultimately end up relying on AI or Google. See what I'm saying, guys? So final thing here, how to open up a firm the right way. Let's call these the back burner items. What are back burner items? Anything that you don't really consider as important, but eventually will show up. Things like detailing. Guys, you need to have a library of details. You need to have a library of detail for whatever you are thinking of specializing in. Are you doing remodels? What type of remodels? What year are these remodels? What are the typical construction details of these type of remodels? And how do you draft upon that? How do you build upon that? Do you have these kind of details? Do you do CMU? Do you do stick construction? Do you do metal stud construction? What type of foundation are you guys doing? Are you guys doing slab on grade? Are you guys doing some sort of like modular system that's, I don't know, open web steel joists that are above the grade? Do you have any foundation detailing that is associated with the type of construction that your expertise deals with? These are back burner items that you should have. What are other back burner items that you should have? Proposal and any other contract documents, right? You can probably start to look into your firm and see if you have access to any of what they use. Do they use AIA standard documentation? Do they have their own contracts, right? Is there a way that you could start to look into how they set up their structure? Like, how do they get paid? When do they get paid? Do they do lump sum? How much are they charging? Are they doing 10% of the cost of construction? Are they doing? There's just a world of information that just gets neglected by the average employee at a firm. Now, I'm not saying jump in there and hack the system, guys. It's going up to the principal, the owner, the project managers, and saying, listen, I want to know more about this. They shouldn't get mad at you. If they do, just say that you're studying for the ARE. And it's true, the ARE covers this, guys. But the thing is that there's ARE and there's real world, and you're in the real world. And that real world, you have access to it. So if the ARE is talking about overhead and your firm's multiplier, why not ask your firm? If they get mad, just be like, I'm studying for the ARE. What's the big deal? This is not like hidden information, guys. There's nothing proprietary here. So that pretty much covers it. Little thing that I want to add is, guys, this all assumes that if you're going out on your own, you have a license to do architecture. You do know that it's not legal for you to perform architecture if you don't have a license in the United States. That's just a general thing. So I shouldn't have to say that. That's why a lot of this stuff goes without being said. So just keep that in mind, guys. All right. Now, I said a lot of stuff in this video. If you have any opinions that oppose to what I said, or if you have anything to add to what I said, or even if you have questions that you need me to expand on further based on things that I said, guys, feel free to reach out, drop a comment. You know, while you're down there, go ahead and give this video a like. I don't know if you guys know this, but the more people that like this video, just the algorithm loves that. Algorithm loves to see likes and comments. So if you do that, it really helps the channel out, really helps me out. We have a little jet flying overhead, which is cool. You know, I should really be saying this kind of stuff at the beginning of the channel, but I just love to, hopefully you guys can see this jet in the air behind me. But I should really be saying this kind of stuff at the beginning of the video, not at the end. So I'll try to make a habit on that. But always my focus is talking about the actual topic at hand, not really, you know, promoting my channel. But the goal is to grow the channel so more people have access to this kind of information. We get some good questions going down in the comments, and then we're able to expand on this and learn, right? Because a lot of times questions that other people have are probably not questions that I have or have had, or actually are questions that I have had, and therefore I'm like, oh, that's right, I used to not know this, but now I know. Boom, and then I can answer it. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful to you guys. Till next time, peace out, everyone.